Sorry about that. It's not that I forgot to turn on the camera. That wasn't the case. I just forgot my drink in the kitchen, and I'm very thirsty, so I had poured a big glass of water, and I forgot to bring it with me. So, sometimes that's just how things go. So just give me a sec here. Thought I'd do a follow-up on the story I started this sort of new human interest style Grizzly Growl with. Instead of me just yelling about Trump and Polyev and how terrible they are for all of humanity and the political system, I thought I would try and focus on some more human interest stories. Some of them are just going to bring your heart some joy. Some of them I hope to help inform you with, and others will probably enrage you. And the first series was enraging. And I thought I'd follow that up with a story from just a couple of days ago. I had to look for it to find it, but I do have it here in my feed. And this is about the founder of the Moose Jaw Health Center. He suggests that the ALS drug industry, in quotations, ALS drug industry, was behind the CBC investigation of his business. Dayan Goodenowe defends the care his center provided to now deceased ALS client Susie Silvestri. The man behind the Moose Jaw Health Center that has claimed a 100% success rate in stopping the progression and in restoring function of people with ALS, that's in quotation, by the way, says a recent CBC story about his company is evidence that he is seen as a direct threat to the ALS drug industry. Okay, this asshole's as delusional as Pierre Polyev. This is completely delusional. I'll continue. Dayan Goodenowe made the comments in a December 5th email he sent out to supporters after a recent CBC investigation into his Dr. Goodenowe Restorative Health Center. That investigation, as you heard on this show, told the story of Susie Silvestri, a 70-year-old American woman who sold her home so she could afford Goodenowe's $84,000 U.S. biochemical engineering program. Silvestri was convinced Goodenowe could cure her ALS. And in one text to her brother, she wrote, "He is such a sweet man, how could I not be healed?" Fewer than 4 months after arriving at his Moose Jaw facility, Silvestri died from late-stage ALS, a disease that causes gradual muscle loss. As her health deteriorated, she was unable to get a feeding tube installed at the Moose Jaw Hospital because her American insurance company wouldn't pay the bill. Now, the bigger problem with that statement, of course, the American insurance company is not going to pay the bill. They don't like to pay any bills. But I'm disgusted with the fact that the hospital denied a dying woman a feeding tube in Canada, in Saskatchewan, where universal health care came from, thanks to Kiefer Sutherland's grandfather, Tommy Douglas. That troubles me. You're denying a feeding tube. Somebody won't pay for it. Oh, sorry, that just... She had to rent her own ambulance, borrow some medical equipment, and find an American hospital to install the feeding tube or do the surgery to provide her with the feeding tube. She ended up dying alone in a Montana hospital, concluding she was the victim of false hope. Her story led to Saskatchewan politicians calling for a series of investigations. Point number 1, Saskatchewan Health Minister asked the Consumer Affairs Authority to investigate whether the health center is accurately presenting the services it offers. Point number 2, the provincial government called on the College of Physicians and Surgeons to investigate, in quotations, what appears to be the unauthorized practice of medicine. And point number 3, the opposition NDP asked Moose Jaw Police to investigate a series of criminal allegations against the center. Goodenowe's letter to supporters takes particular aim at the NDP, saying it has engaged in quotes, grandstanding. It also includes a link to a 30-minute video responding to CBC's story. In the video, he touted the financial and employment benefits of his health center and called on the public to take political action. just let me catch my breath here for a sec. Yeah, I know I'm bilking people out of their life savings at the end of their life, and I'm giving them hope when there is no hope to be had. But I'm creating jobs. Christ, this guy's an asshole. He says, in quotes, "I urge all of you to contact your elected officials," he said in his video. "It's not acceptable behavior from the CBC. It's not acceptable behavior from the ND party." Well, that's redundant. New Democratic Party. Shock and awe attack. Goodenowe didn't stop there. He also alleged there's a wider coordinated shock and awe attack underway. It has now come to our attention that these attacks may be coordinated by the ALS drug industry and the ALS Association. He wrote in an email entitled "Love Diffuses Hate," sent to friends, practitioners, clients, and residents of Moose Jaw. Those bodies, Goodenowe says, are trying to get the provincial government to pay for a new ALS drug in Saskatchewan and to set up an ALS clinical trial center in the province. He notes that CBC Saskatchewan recently did an interview about an ongoing Canadian clinical trial. "We have been singled out as a direct threat to the ALS drug industry," he concludes. Denis Simard, executive director of the ALS Society of Saskatchewan, said that while he has no direct interaction with drug companies, his organization routinely asks the Saskatchewan government to pay for all drugs approved by Health Canada that may help ALS patients here. He said there is already a center in Saskatoon that assesses ALS patients for their suitability for clinical trials, and his organization has been lobbying the government for years to provide that center additional resources. As for the NDP, it said it is, in quotes, incredibly concerned about this so-called health clinic, adding that, in quotes, "the only people we take direction from are the people of Saskatchewan." Silvestri's story is reminiscent of stories from other Goodenowe clients highlighted in a June CBC investigation. And that is where my series, if you will, started on this particular story. I covered that and spoke about it in detail and recited the entire CBC story to you, adding, of course, my own editorial input and feelings. Goodenowe questioned those reports and filed a lawsuit against CBC, claiming its stories were defamatory. In his letter to supporters, he said CBC got it wrong again with the story about Susie Silvestri. "Please be assured that we will not allow these false accusations to go unpunished," he wrote. "The facts are the facts, and they are all in our favor." CBC examined those factual claims in light of Silvestri's medical records, the testimony of a former Goodenowe care worker, and Silvestri's own words. In its November 30th story about Silvestri, CBC reported that her health deteriorated during her stay at Goodenowe Center based on the testimony of former Goodenowe staff members, Silvestri's own words, and the fact that she died of her disease. In preparing that story, CBC outlined the facts it had gathered through research and asked Goodenowe for his comment. His lawyer replied, "We don't talk to people we are in active litigation against." However, now Goodenowe has addressed some of the issues raised in the story in his online video. Goodenowe, who has a PhD in medical sciences with a focus in psychiatry from the University of Alberta, disputes CBC's story, saying Silvestri's condition did not deteriorate in Moose Jaw. In fact, he said, she was unambiguously better health on December 6th than on September 6th. Then he offered specifics. By November 2024, she could wiggle her toes and ankle. She could hold her leg up in a bent position for 45 seconds, and her voice was noticeably stronger, Goodenowe said. These facts show improvement, and they are documented by staff and a licensed medical doctor. In email, CBC asked Goodenowe for the name of that licensed medical doctor. He did not respond. Goodenowe is not a medical doctor himself, and he has publicly said his facility does not provide medical treatment and does not employ medical staff. A former Goodenowe employee who cared for Silvestri during her stay in Moose Jaw questioned Goodenow's claim that her health improved. While there were some good days, the bad days clearly outweighed the good ones, wrote one former employee in a text to CBC, claiming that her health improved is a cognitive bias and does not reflect her actual condition. The former Goodenowe care worker declined to be named because she's afraid of retaliation, and she's recovering from the effects of this situation has had on her. She said Goodenow's claims about Susie's voice improving are inaccurate. I deny the claim that her voice was noticeably stronger. This is false. Not only was Susie unable to speak, But her swallowing also worsened over time, she said. As for the leg and toe movements, she said Goodenowe is drawing too large a conclusion from a modest change, noting that the observations were generally being made by staff like her, not Goodenowe. The worker said she had never seen Goodenowe involved in his day-to-day routine or care. CBC asked David Taylor, the chief scientific officer of the ALS Society of Canada, what conclusions can be drawn when an ALS patient appears to regain some function. He said that while ALS patients do gradually lose muscle control over time, the disease does not progress in a linear fashion. He said it's not uncommon for people to temporarily regain or appear to regain some function. People have little bumps, it will go back up, and ultimately, that will be a blip if you look across a year or two where they decline to death, he said. So you cannot make an assessment based on a single exam that there's any relationship between what is perceived as an improvement and as a response to treatment. Hospital diagnoses ALS progression. Goodenowe said in his video that Silvestri's health unambiguously improved during her stay in his Moose Jaw facility. However, hospital records seem to indicate otherwise. After moving into the Goodenowe Restorative Health Center in mid-September 2024, Silvestri was admitted to hospital multiple times, in one case for COVID pneumonia, in another gallstones, and yet another shortness of breath. In mid-November, she was admitted once again, this time with difficulty expectorating phlegm due to the ALS and weakness, according to her medical records, which her family provided to CBC. The physician noted Silvestri was having some trouble eating and swallowing as well. In the medical record, he said the responsible diagnosis was ALS progression with the possibility of aspiration, a term for accidentally inhaling something into your lungs. This was the first time her medical file indicated that she was asking for a feeding tube to be installed. She also mentioned that to her brother in a mid-November text. And I'm going to read the text to you from Friday, November 15th, 2024 at 2:49 p.m. Things are not looking good here. Can't get feeding tube. Have to go back to States. If I return, it would be to Mass. I don't know what Mass is. Time to be closer to family. My head spins. Suggestions? I don't want care facility, but looking like I don't have a choice. This is not what I ever thought my life would look like at this point. Give me some time to think about this, is how her brother responded. I'm going to come back to this and revisit it again tomorrow because this story has been on my mind for some time, as you well know. When I came across this story, it struck me as incredibly disturbing and troublesome because, my goodness gracious me, how are we allowing something like this to happen in this country? This is wrong on a multitude of levels. And now this guy's trying to push back and say that, oh, it was somebody else's fault. Sounds to me, in my humble, unprofessional medical opinion, because I am not a medical doctor, sounds to me like he has NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, because he doesn't see that he's doing anything wrong. Now, I mean, morally, everything he's doing is wrong. He's giving hope to people when there is no hope to be had. He is taking their life savings and telling them they're going to get better. He tells them he has a 100% success rate, when that's clearly not the case, because nobody survives ALS. Nobody. This man is got a lot of karma coming his way. I don't know when it's going to show up, but I hope it shows up soon, honest with you. I hope the province and the city are able to do something to prosecute this man and shut him down before he bilks any more people out of their hard-earned money at the end of their lives. He's giving hope to people when hope is not meant to be had. You do not survive from this. You're best to just live your life the best you can until you can't anymore. Don't give $100,000 to some shyster, some narcissist who thinks he knows everything, because clearly he does not. This guy's just the biggest asshole. I'm sorry. I'm really trying to curb my language, but some days you just get so angry at things like this. I might be able to get into it. Actually, on Friday, I'm going to talk about our Friday 6 o'clock weekly wrap-up show. I will discuss the insane interview that Pierre Poilievre had with Rosemary Barton. And then, of course, then he went on Vashi Kapala's show and recited the same pile of garbage. The man is also somebody who I believe has narcissistic personality disorder, because all of the wrong things that he's done is somebody else's fault. We are living in strange times, my friend. I guess, as the old saying goes, may you live in interesting times. I don't know if I want to be much more interested than I am right now. This has been your Grizzly Growl. I'll be back tomorrow with more on Susie Silvestri and Dayan Goodenowe and the Moose Jaw Police. You take care. I'll see you soon. Bye.